So that's fantastic. I think you've given us a very clear perspective on how to create that change. And I think that can be really helpful to other colleagues in different parts of the world. I think one of the most important things to sort of ensure that the mayor's office and persons with disabilities in New York has been doing a lot of learning and a lot of leading kind of mainstreaming these issues. What are some of the challenges or resistance that you've encountered that you think could be helpful for other people as they try to follow your lead and advance some of the initiatives that you've been advancing as well?
So
And how do
Victor,
you tackle that?
yeah, sorry, say that again, Victor.
And how do you tackle that, those resistance?
So I think we're always going to find resistance until we change people's perception of disability, right? I would like to say we're doing the ultimate job and everyone should follow us, but that really isn't the case, right? I've learned from other cities throughout the United States. We have an Empowered Cities initiative working across cities throughout the United States to figure out what's going on, and we have bi-monthly calls. And we're trying to figure this out together, right? And there's more to come on our Empowered Cities initiative. And then learning from the world. We're listening to the things that you've put together, Cities for all the work that World Enable has done, working with Access Israel to find out the things that they're doing, learning from others to be able to do that. I think that's important. I don't think I got to the root of your question, Victor. So you want to come back to that, because I think I got lost in talking about collaborating with other cities.
No, you did very well. The challenge here is that when the cities develop a solution, you're saying that solution, those approaches provide a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge allows us to get through barriers. So one city encounters a challenge or a barrier, another city can solve it, can learn from it. I think for me, the important thing is, what have you seen during COVID in terms of how various cities have responded? And how do you think the sort of the pre-COVID, post-COVID, experience has been from a perspective of also sharing data, sharing knowledge, and acting upon it?
So I think there's a lot that everyone's learning, right? There's a lot of food insecurity within the community. And how do we stand up programs that allow for food delivery? And I think this is something that was pre-COVID, and it's just has brought to light during COVID, right? We have a lot of programs throughout the United States that are set up for seniors, food delivery programs, right? But they don't necessarily include people with disabilities. So that food insecurity is important, right? And we need to be able to bridge that. And I've seen that throughout everything that we've done. So I think that has certainly been an issue throughout COVID. And then this e-learning platform. And how do we ensure that kids with disabilities have the related services that they need, right? One-to-one nursing. The digital platforms that they're learning on, are they accessible? How do we have occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy delivered virtually? And we know that there's a segment of the population that don't do well with digital platforms. And how do we provide those services in a safe manner, both for the person with the disability and for the person that's providing it? I mean, and these are things that have come to light during this. Very scary things. There's been ways that we've tackled this with the digital platform by learning about what digital platforms are out there and the accessibility features that are there and how we could expand on that. Being able to provide every kid in New York City with a disability access to those connected devices and Wi-Fi for free. and the city of New York has been tackling that. But understanding it, we know that in New York City, we have the biggest school district in the country, in the United States, and there's 1 million kids throughout our system. And we know that 250,000 of them identify as having a need with their individual education plan. So it's a large number, right? That data tells us that. And then we're able to provide kids with what they need. And the problem is some kids will be left behind, and how do we drive that? And education's important. So the things we've learned through that, and learning from other cities and learning what platforms they're using, is important for us to know.
That's fantastic. I think cities around the world are going to look to for the learnings from New York as an important, benchmark, or an important, reference to how they can also spot what resources does the city of New York have on its website, or give us two or three that you think some of our learners could access.
So I think before I go there, Victor, or actually I'll go there first. So number one is we set up a website, right? Our website has all COVID related issues, talking from all of our agencies, of talking about food insecurity, kids with disabilities, emergency management information, accessible transportation options. So driving that and collecting all that and putting them in one place so people with disabilities can get that is important. We had a weekly call. Now it's twice a month, and people can join that by finding the information on our website, see what we're doing. So I think collecting information, making sure it's available for people is important. And Victor, post-COVID, right? Every year, the city of New York, for the last 4 years, coming up on our 5th year, put together an annual report. It's called Accessible NYC, and it's a state of persons with disabilities throughout the city of New York. And we usually build upon it every year. And we focus on lots of areas: transportation, education, healthcare, housing, employment, financial empowerment, technology, everything the city has to offer. And this year, we've committed at Accessible NYC to what is New York City going to look like post-COVID. So you're going to be seeing some stuff that's out there. Victor, we're going to be talking about the digital divide. We're going to be talking about healthcare is delivered in the future. We're going to talk about domestic violence for people with disabilities, which is there. We're going to talk about ways that we're working to make sure that people can text 911, which we've just implemented a text to 911, right? We're going to be bringing these initiatives and exposing what COVID-19 has done for people with disabilities throughout our city. So it's going to be a really inward-looking report and what we need to do to be able to move forward post-COVID. Because the reality, Victor, is we don't even know what the effects of post-COVID is right now. And what can we capitalize on to move things forward? It's going to be some grim things that are going to happen later on in our country, and if not the world.
And what I think it gives hope, because once we learn from each other, we can build back better. So I think the report, I've never heard anybody talk about writing a report like that. And I think it could be the first of its kind globally by any city to really look at the multiple dimensions of exclusion, or multiple dimensions of challenges. I would encourage guys to also look at the opportunities. So even during post-COVID, there is a way to actually look at how these systemic challenges make evident things that were too long invisible, which gives us a nice closure to our conversation today, which is that if you don't measure it, you can't see it. If you don't measure it, you can't act upon it. If you don't measure, if you don't have the data, you can't bring people together to tackle the problem. effectively. And I think that's what I've learned a lot from you. Is that it takes a lot of different people working together with a lot of different agencies to really demonstrate leadership. It's not something that you've ever done on your own. It's not something that you've ever sort of, talk about in isolation. You talk about community, and then you talk about the citywide approach, and that's something that a lot of people that are learning from this learning module can also implement in whatever city they live in, whether it's a small town or it's a big city. These are values that are going to be really important as they build back and look at the recovery post COVID as well.
Yeah, and Victor, although I'm leading my team often leads me, right? And they're the one bringing this stuff out, and I can't do this by myself. It's nothing I can't do by myself. My team is really important, and I value them every day.
And you have a diverse team, which is also incredibly important because all those perspectives bring idea. I'm very jealous of your team. I think you have such an awesome team that I was dreaming to myself, like all of these brilliant people working together can really shape a better world. So thank you so much for spending time with us and for being with us.
Well, yeah, and diverse teams are important, right? In race and gender and disability, because it really informs us. So thank you, Victor, for allowing me to be part of this, and your leadership as well.
We're I think together we're actually gonna see, like you're saying, we're gonna see. I believe we're gonna see a better world, and we're just watching what's happening in the world and watching what you're doing in New York and what others are doing. It's a tremendous. It fills me with hope. So I hope people that watch this can also be filled with hope and know that they can do better. And I think we've learned a lot from you, and we'll continue to learn from you. We can stop the recording now, and there we go. Stop the recording.